blessed day, everyone. May the peace and love of Christ be with you all as we continue this Lenten recollection series on the Beatitudes. I like it when we immerse ourselves into recollections, and a good dose of recollection for that matter. That is because it is a great opportunity to bring oneself, or invite ourselves, so to speak, to call to mind once more what experiences we've been at, what good we've been to, or what greater good we can possibly become ourselves. Here we call it an introspection, self-analysis, contemplation, meditation, or simply a reflection. And yet, all these have seemingly one common positive outcome to us, and that it brings something more profound than what we previously had thought of, what we previously had grasped. Something bigger, something grander, something more meaningful in a greater sense. And so, yesterday, we started this beautiful recollection with the first Beatitude. Blessed are the poor in spirit, the kingdom of heaven is theirs. And it paved the way back to our thoughts, the profound wisdom that to be poor in spirit means to be humble before God, to know and acknowledge that all our gifts and blessings, even our very own lives, are given to us by our gracious and loving God. And in that line of thought, the clarity that everything is from God should reign our hearts, our actions, and our lives in general. There is no amount of arrogance or self-righteousness that we can bring ourselves to others, and most especially to God. To be poor in spirit is to leave the mother of all virtues, which is the virtue of humility. Today, let's continue and reflect on another beatitude. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. We know that the two greatest commandments are, number 1, loving God, and number 2, loving our neighbor. All other commandments root from these two. And our Catholic teachings tell us that we cannot love God and despise our neighbor, nor can we love our neighbor on the one side and ignore God on the other. Both commandments complement each other. Both commandments go together. Both makes the whole complete. So if we truly love God, we will also love all those who belong to God. And every human being, without exception, comes from God and is loved by God with an incomprehensible love. When we love others, we will see their triumphs, happiness, and successes as ours too, because we consider them as our extension of ourselves. However, along our faith journey, we find them, and equally ourselves too, in pains and sufferings. None of us are spared from any sorrow or sadness caused directly or indirectly by this. And so, because we love them as like ourselves, their sufferings become ours too. We feel the pains that they feel, that seeing them from any scale of injustice, violence, and hatred, while we co-live in the present world, can make our heart cry. We feel sorry for them. We mourn together for them. We see ourselves in their situations. The present global pandemic due to coronavirus, which all of us are experiencing, have opened our eyes to the harsh realities of human sufferings, of how fragile our life can be. The daily numbers on the statistics are one too many to bear. Our hearts grieve for all those affected, all those that have no access to adequate health care, and all those that passed away. Our hearts are moved with sorrow that all we can utter immediately and silently to ourselves is our prayers to God for deliverance. We seek the Lord for mercy and compassion as we mourn with the whole of humanity. To mourn is also to acknowledge our sinfulness against God. One of the most popular parables of Jesus is the story of the prodigal son in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 11 to 31. That as the younger son demanded his share of inheritance from his father, even if he is still living, had left their home and squandered his property in a distant country in desolate living. When severe famine took place and he had spent everything, he hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to the fields to feed the pigs. He would have gladly fed himself with pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. In that moment of recollection, he thought to himself how many of his father's servants have bread enough and spare, while he himself is dying of hunger. Such re-examination of oneself, reflection on what fate had brought him into because of his frivolous pursuits, made him to say to himself three things. One, that he will get up and go to his father. Two, that he will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. And third, that he will ask his father to treat him like one of his hired hands. The story continues that while he is still far off in the distance, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. How would you imagine yourself if you are in the Father's shoes? With a contrite heart, the prodigal son comes back to his loving Father. In the same way, we should always bring ourselves back to God, to submit our own littleness to God's greatness. That even moments we stumble and fall because of our frivolous earthly pursuits, we should waste no time to beg for His mercy and forgiveness. The loving Father, as the moving story continues, asked His servants to put the best robe on Him, a ring on His finger, and sandals on His feet. He restored his son's dignity. He even asked to kill the fatted calf and called for a celebration. It is a perfect picture of God's graciousness and compassion to whoever mourns for his sinful nature. And that should always be our posture before God, repentant, like the tax collector who beats his chest as he prays for mercy and forgiveness. When we mourn, we open up our heavy hearts to God, which of his infinite mercy and goodness comforts us. And that is because it is his very nature. He himself is love, and he cannot afford to unlove us. Another beatitude which Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount is, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." To be meek is to nurture a spirit of gentleness to oneself and towards others. To be calm despite the fears, worries, and anxieties the world around will bring. It is living in tenderness and kindness with one another. Being meek is not quick to take offense at others, but instead patient with one another. When we continually immerse ourselves in the holy presence of God, we begin to discover that God himself is very patient with us, despite our failures, our weaknesses, and our sinfulness. And as we continuously love by his love, his loving and forgiving nature are then personified in our own ways, in our own thoughts, and in our own actions. We grow more to be like him. The meek hesitates to judge and make definitive remarks and conclusions about others. Instead, he steps back, brings himself to a wider understanding, and learns to listen. The meek aren't violent, vengeful, or willing to exploit others. It is against his nature of self-restraint. He practices self-control. Being meek is not addicted to worldly power. Instead, he can become, as Bishop Robert Barron said, a conduit of truly divine power. What would you be like when others say something about you behind your back? Would you retaliate? Would you ever fight back? To see Jesus suffering on the cross is to gaze a perfect example of being meek. Bruised, tired, thirsty, and dying. All imaginable conditions of sufferings is in himself. Yet, however, despite his almighty power and might, he didn't stop those who persecuted him, that led to his crucifixion and death. He didn't even complain nor objected against his perpetrators. Instead, he remained obedient to the will of his Father. Bishop Barron said that we have this sense of infinite longing for God. All of us. But we tend to fill it up with something by quoting St. Thomas Aquinas that if we want perfect exemplification of the Beatitudes, we should look to Christ crucified, to Jesus himself on the cross. That if you want to be happy, despise what Jesus despised in the cross, and love what Jesus loved in the cross. What to be despised are these four things which we typically seek our happiness: wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. What Jesus loved on the cross is doing the will of the Father. And so that is what the Beatitudes tell us: to live like Christ, to be like Him in His thoughts, to be like Him in His ways, to carry that love which He first revealed and gave to us towards others, to our brothers and sisters, to embody and live that love. May this season of Lent be a meaningful celebration for us to love ourselves and to extend that love in the same capacity to others, to practice the Beatitudes and live out